Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and today I want to take a moment to talk about the extremely exciting news and prospect that was just unveiled this Friday at PAX West. Homeworld 3 is finally happening. As somebody who thoroughly enjoyed Homeworld 20 years ago, followed by Homeworld Cataclysm and Homeworld 2, I can't wait for the series to return to space and provide us with a proper sequel to Homeworld 2. Let's take a look at the trailer real quick. I'll include a timestamp to skip it in the description down below if you'd like, but let's just give it a quick watch first.
Recon team, stand by for gate sequence initiation.
Copy that. Mass distribution nominal, approach vector clean. All systems green.
Watch your drift. Jump formation locked in.
Gate sequence start. Quantum waveform detected. Jump gate online.
Commit systems enabled.
Here we go. Jump commit in 3, 2, 1.
God, I love the music at the end there. So very little is actually known about the game, and maybe I'll do a Homeworld plot recap someday for those of you who missed out on the joy of the series. The developers, Blackbird Interactive, are the same devs behind the 2016 prequel game Deserts of Kharak, and many of the team at the time, and for Homeworld 3, are from the original Homeworld team from Relic. The planned release date is Q4 2022, and the devs are promising to maintain the feel of the original Homeworld games. Honestly, the trailer, even though it's just a cinematic for a game that's still very early in pre-production, hit a lot of the right notes. When we first see the trails behind the 3 ships, I couldn't stop grinning like a fool. They're a pretty iconic and memorable piece from the original games. It hit the nostalgia notes visually. The voices and overall music was spot on, and the ending as the logo came up gave me chills, not to mention the glimpses of who I assume to still be Fleet Command, though we're yet to see the new mothership. The devs have made it clear they want to be loyal to the original games, with appropriate improvements made to accessibility and visuals and game systems, of course, and we're getting a full 3D space RTS again, complete with more attention to detail, more emphasis on destruction, and more of the same breathtaking settings. The devs sound genuinely excited and passionate about this project, and that, in this era of garbage sequels and crappy reboots and annualized releases, really does mean a lot and gives us a great positive signal. Now all that sounds pretty sweet. If you're an existing fan of the series, it's a good way to start the hype train, and if you've never heard of Homeworld, it might get you to check out the HD editions that were released relatively recently. But, as the title of this video suggests, the reveal is bittersweet, and so I think it's time we talk about the bitterness. I'll start by letting the Canadian in me stand up and preemptively apologize for the negativity. I try to keep things fairly optimistic on this channel, but with Homeworld 3, I'm seeing a lot of red flags. I'm sorry. But remember, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Homeworld 3 is in pre-production, and supposedly, it's already fully funded. Despite this, there's a crowdfunding campaign on Fig for the game where the goal is set to just $1. That low goal means that no matter how much the campaign makes, the devs will get the money that was pledged, whether it's $50 or $1 million. The cheapest pledge tier includes a copy of the game and access to the supporter-only Discord, survey, and early access to Homeworld Mobile. All additional tiers just add more stuff, like another copy of the game, a collector's edition, a signed piece of concept art. This is essentially a pre-order, and so that's exactly what I'm going to call it. One exception is the ability to supply a name for a pilot name pool, and then there's the option to invest with a $500 buy-in, something I'll dig into in a bit. Naturally, as is often the promise with campaigns like this, being a supporter, or perhaps more specifically being an investor, will give you some say in how things might progress. Supposedly, the supporters gain a degree of influence over the production of the game and the decisions that are made. That's a cool pre-order bonus for sure, especially for franchise fans. But at the end of the day, the devs, Gearbox, and any other potential investors are likely to have final say. After all, we can all give our opinions and we can influence development, but that doesn't mean we can actually change it. I imagine it's much like the average suggestion box. Sure, you can add your opinion to the mix, but does it matter? There's no indication to the extent of influence, but sure, they sound genuinely excited to work with a community of loyal, long-term fans. But if that was the case, and they genuinely cared for what the fans thought, the ask for those opinions wouldn't be just for those who pre-ordered. And let me be crystal clear. Again, this campaign is a pre-order campaign and not much more. It's one of my biggest problems with crowdfunding these days. I want to crowdfund the passion projects of small to mid-sized teams that need my money and hopefully won't run away with it. I don't want to pre-order from an established developer who clearly already has the money they need, all under the guise of crowdfunding. It comes across as shrewd and crafty and, frankly, a way to emotionally manipulate fans into pre-ordering. If the developer truly cared to give back to the fans as they claim, and as I do believe to a certain degree, then why have this strange, tiered structure to pledges? Why do anything but open up to investments and a minimum $50 pledge? All the higher tiers are just pre-order bonuses and limited edition bonuses like access to digital collector's items and a signed concept art print. Just because it's presented in a different format doesn't change what it is. On top of that, if they really care about what the fans want, why exclude the fans who are wary or unable to afford the risk of buying a game 3 to 4 years before it releases? That's not giving back to all the fans, that's giving back to people who have purchased your product, the bare minimum expectation of a buyer-seller relationship. I've worked in advertising. It doesn't take much to question the phrasing and intent here, so it's all just emotionally effective copywriting to take your money. Or as successful business folk put it, it's just business. The real meat of the problem though, and I'm sure you all saw this coming, is with this question in the FAQ. Which platforms will you support? Asks the innocent gamer, hoping to play this long-awaited game free of any weird console-style exclusivity concerns. And the devs respond, blah blah blah, too early to tell, but will of course be on PC. Come on, folks. It's 2019. We all know what the question is really asking, and Gearbox and Blackbird Interactive both know it too. Is the game going to be epic, or is it going to be an Epic exclusive? You bet this would have been a frequently asked question, and so the devs and publishers figured they'd nip it in the bud with the most non-answer of answers, and in effect, that's an answer itself. Given what Gearbox did with Borderlands as the best example, we're likely going to see Homeworld 3 be an Epic Game Store exclusive for at least a year before opening up to other storefronts. Now, before you think this is just another anti-Epic Game Store rant, no, it's not. Look, if the game wasn't funded and it was upfront about the platforms it intended to be available on, I wouldn't mind it as much. If they announced themselves as an Epic exclusive title, I'd still think it was ridiculous, but not as bad as pulling the wool over our eyes like other devs have been doing with great pride lately. I understand that from a publisher's perspective. The better cut than Steam gives makes a lot of sense. But I'm not asking for Steam specifically, because I understand why that's become a problem for developers and publishers. I'm asking for a promise of non-exclusivity. Give me GOG or Steam or, I don't know, Uplay or Origin or Battle.net, whatever options might be out there, give me anything, but give me more than just the one choice, especially when the one choice has a slew of issues. Issues for anything from lacking feature set, to security, to privacy, to horribly anti-consumer practices. But most of all, give me a direct answer. One of the many character traits I'm wary of in people is craftiness, and the same applies infinitely more to corporations. Don't try to be clever with me. And with this pre-order, 3 to 4 years out from release, there's already a very gross, slimy feeling around the entire campaign. On which note, let's take a look at Fig, a platform which is doing something really cool in this space in my honest opinion. Through Fig, you can become an indirect investor on projects. For the higher entry point of $500, you can buy a share, and for the first 18 months of a product's release, you will be a part of the revenue sharing deal between Fig and the developers. Fig's percentage is 14% plus a variable percentage depending on how well the campaign does, and investors get their parts out of 85% of that Fig percentage paid out in dividends. If my understanding and research is right, and feel free to correct me if it's not, an investor gets paid based on sales receipts for those first 18 months. That means a cash injection from outside investors doesn't factor in, meaning if Epic or any other storefront has secured exclusivity, you're investing into a smaller market share and as such giving yourself a smaller potential profit margin for that first year when the game isn't available on all storefronts on PC. This is pretty important information if you're going to make an investment. Plus, in my opinion, you should never get into bed with a company without knowing who else is in bed with them. Whether it's for ethical reasons or business reasons, it's just unwise to know as little as we currently know before buying into a company. Overall, the lack of clarity here just adds another degree of shadiness that I think all consumers should not feel comfortable with. And look, Epic isn't good for consumers. I've been over this multiple times already, and it isn't some saint to developers either. They recently turned down a rather noble suggestion from the developer of Dark, a horror puzzle game from a solo dev. Let Dark sell non-exclusively on Epic Game Store, and all the revenue, not profit, but revenue, generated from the platform would go to charity. And Tim Sweeney had the gall to say, "We're still in the early hand-curated days," as an explanation for the exclusion. Even though Epic had reached out to Dark seeking exclusivity in the first place, which means Dark had already gone through the curation process and had been selected by the curators. Dark was clearly good enough to include. That's what curation is. Dark was selected. Refusing them a place because they didn't want to be exclusive is extremely gross and smears the whole claim that Epic actually cares for developers. It's just business. AAA devs like Epic because of the bigger cut, and some indie devs need the cash injection, and that's fine. But let's stop portraying the exclusivity deals as some act of charity. It's frankly getting a little old, and it's disgusting. So, in the interest of it just being business, I implore all of you to really think about it before you pre-order a game that's 3 to 4 years out, where you know nothing other than the title and the name of the developers, where you don't know what platform you'll be able to play it on, and if that platform will support friends lists, sales, or even have decent security measures. You don't know if there will be delays, you don't know how revenue sharing will work, you don't know if the actual work will be done by the right devs, never forget Colonial Marines, and you don't know if one of the executives involved is gonna maybe go around embezzling your $500 investment like he allegedly did with $12 million earlier. And maybe he'll also allegedly get to assaulting the talent that you technically invested in. I'm curious to hear other opinions. As always, is there a defense for this sort of thing? Can it be justified? Or am I right in calling this out as a somewhat shady pre-order scheme, or scam, I guess? I hate using that word. I'd love to know what you all think, so let me know in the comments below. It makes me so sad to say this, but as excited as I am for Homeworld 3, and as much as I'd love to be a part of the process, I feel like this is not a relationship that is being founded on trust. And if there is no trust, then what's the point? I don't support businesses that come across as untrustworthy, and I'm sorry, but that's just business. As always, I'd like to thank all of my channel members and patrons for supporting the channel on a monthly basis. You keep us alive and running smoothly. Thank you very much for that. And a big ol' thanks, of course, goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.